So first we're going to tackle the Federalist point of view, and some of you might be very familiar with the Federalist Project. The Federalists wanted to reject the Articles of Confederation. Why? Under A. Now again, I'm saying Federalists. I'm not saying everybody. And one of the most frustrating problems that I see in the way we talk about the founding is the assumption that these elite white male property holders thought the same. That's a stereotype as much as anything else. These are people who had profound disagreements about the course of the country. So don't say founders. You can say, or the founding generation, or the revolutionary generation. They actually were very divided by what to do with their independence and how to structure a constitution around it. The Declaration of Independence is not a constitution. Why do people confuse it with one?
Because it does talk about rights in there.
Yes, it talks about rights. The right to do what? What is it?
Liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Right. And it's also a contractual argument that if, well, what is the whole point of the Declaration of Independence? If you don't respect the rights,
Of the people.
we will,
Declare
Revolt.
independent
we'll declare, well, yes, it's saying we have the right, it's a very active view of citizenship. We have the right to disintegrate the ties that bind two countries and ourselves to our sovereign if the sovereign doesn't hold up their end of the bargain.
which is an interesting connection to the nullification crisis.
Yes, absolutely. Now remember, we think of them as being distressed, the founding generation as being distressed by English rule, but that's not actually what the Declaration says. It says you didn't treat us like English citizens. Because there was no better model for the founding generation than the parliament system, and which was much more powerful than the king in a lot of ways. So respecting the rights of Englishmen was the idea, and the idea was that they were not being respected. So it wasn't destroying England, and as you can see after the Revolutionary War, there are a lot of loyalists. And during the English and French wars, the country essentially divided with half slipping right back, rooting for England. But the Declaration of Independence is not a constitution. And this is something that all levels should know. It's no structure, it's no process, it is not a list of powers, it's only a list of rights and liberties. And that's not a constitution, that's not a government.
Complaints.
Yeah, it's a list of grievances and complaints. So when you cite the Declaration, remember that that's what it is. It's not a governing charter. So the Articles of Confederation is the first governing charter. And its connection in time to the Declaration, the Articles of Confederation is roughly 1777 to 1789. I'm saying roughly because the ratification of the Articles of Confederation was a little bit slow, but it went into effect early during the war. And the ratification of the second Constitution was a little slow, but this is the first year that the second Constitution's in effect. So we give it a general 12-year span. And for all of its faults, the Revolutionary War was won under the Articles of Confederation. So we have to be careful about bashing it for two reasons. One, the government, the Continental Congress, pulled off something that was considered to be extremely unlikely, which is winning the Revolutionary War. It was a very limited government, and yet it managed to do something extraordinary. So we have to accept that it was not a complete failure, even though the Federalists were later painted as such. Also, it had a philosophy of states' rights that is much, much more severe than any good states' rights proponent you would find today. Because the word used in the Articles of Confederation more than once is the term sovereign. State sovereignty. We talk about state sovereignty today, but we really don't mean it. What does state sovereignty mean?
Power to control themselves.
Right, the real, how much power?
Complete.
Complete. So then why are you in a country?
Right.
That's the question to them. You want to be sovereign? Well, then what's the point of having a nation if the national constitution is going to say that states are sovereign? What do you think? Is that just a division that cannot exist forever. So let's think about a few more structures and processes. Just like the Constitution that comes after, this is a Constitution that really cares a lot about structures. There's one branch, and this is it. One branch. No executive. There's a president of the Continental Congress, but that's more, at best, of a presiding officer of the legislative body. Why is it interesting not to have an executive branch? Who executes the law then?
It was a direct result of being under the king. They were not looking for-
Right, yeah, it's a rejection of executive power. Because executives are more than just executors of the law, they become interpreters of the law. So with no executive body, who tells the states what to do? Nobody. That's right, the states. And there's no judiciary. So every state had one vote, equal, no matter the population. And they can send 20 people to the Continental Congress, but they have to act as a unit of one. They have to figure out what they are about. And there were enumerated powers, which were very limited. No implied power at all. The national government had a short list of enumerated powers, no implication of interpretation. So the only way to get more powers added was to amend the articles, and that took what? If you really don't want something to happen, what kind of a vote do you want it to be then?
9 of 13.
9 out of 13 just to pass law. I should have mentioned that. Thank you, Bob. But to amend?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, so is this going to happen a lot?
No.
So in other words, the structure determined what was going to happen. Is this going to grow the government? No. So the words, the powers, the structures come together to show a very weak central authority. So what happened? The founders said, we'll do this quickly, don't worry. The founders said this is not working. And the people who I'm calling the founders are really the framers of the Constitution.